Now the rest had sat down and were orderly in their places. But one man, Thersites of the endless speech, still scolded, who knew within his head many words, but disorderly, vain, and without decency, to quarrel with the princes with any word he thought might be amusing to the Argives. This was the ugliest man who came beneath Ilion. He was bandy-legged and went lame of one foot, with shoulders stooped and drawn together over his chest, and above this his skull went up to a point with the wool grown sparsely upon it. Beyond all others, Achilles hated him, and Odysseus. These two he was forever abusing. But now, at brilliant Agamemnon he clashed the shrill noise of his abuse. The Achaeans were furiously angry with him, their minds resentful. But he, crying the words aloud, scolded Agamemnon, "Son of Atreus, what thing further do you want or find fault with now? Your shelters are filled with bronze. There are plenty of the choicest women for you within your shelter, whom we Achaeans give to you first of all whenever we capture some stronghold. Or is it still more gold you will be wanting that some son of the Trojans, breakers of horses, brings as ransom out of Ilion? One that I or some other Achaean capture and bring in? Is it some young woman to lie with in love and keep her all to yourself apart from the others? It is not right for you, their leader, to lead in sorrow the sons of the Achaeans. My good fools, poor abuses, you women, not men of Achaia. Let us go back home in our ships and leave this man here by himself in Troy to mull his prizes of honor, that he may find out whether or not we others are helping him. And now he has dishonored Achilles, a man much better than he is. He has taken his prize by force and keeps her. But there is no gall in Achilles' heart, and he is forgiving. Otherwise, son of Atreus, this were your last outrage." So he spoke, Thersites, abusing Agamemnon, the shepherd of the people. But brilliant Odysseus swiftly came up beside him, scowling, and laid a harsh word upon him. "Fluent orator though you be, Thersites, your words are ill-considered. Stop, nor stand up alone against princes. Out of all those who came beneath Ilion with Atreides, I assert there is no worse man than you are. Therefore you shall not lift up your mouth to argue with princes, cast reproaches into their teeth, nor sustain the home-going. We do not even know clearly how these things will be accomplished, whether we sons of the Achaeans shall win home well or badly. Yet you sit here, throwing abuse at Agamemnon, Atreus' son, the shepherd of the people, because the Danaan fighters give him much. You argue nothing but scandal, and this also will I tell you, and it will be a thing accomplished. If once more I find you playing the fool as you are now, never more let the head of Odysseus sit on his shoulders. Let me never more be called Telemachus' father. If I do not take you and strip away your personal clothing, your mantle, and your tunic that cover over your nakedness, and send you thus bare and howling back to the fast ships, whipping you out of the assembly place with the strokes of indignity." So he spoke and dashed the scepter against his back and shoulders. Then he doubled over, and a round tear dropped from him, and a bloody welt stood up between his shoulders under the golden scepter's stroke, and he sat down again, frightened in pain, and looking helplessly about, wiped off the teardrops. Sorry though the men were, they laughed over him happily, and thus They would speak to each other, each looking at the man next to him. Come now, Odysseus has done excellent things by thousands, bringing forward good counsels and ordering armed encounters, but now this is far the best thing he ever has accomplished among the Argives, to keep this thrower of words, this braggart out of assembly. Never again will his proud heart stir him up to wrangle with the princes in words of revilement. So the multitude spoke, but Odysseus, sacker of cities, stood up holding the staff, and beside him grey-eyed Athene, in the likeness of a herald, enjoined the people to silence, that at once the foremost and the utmost sons of the Achaeans might listen to him speaking and deliberate his counsel. He, in kind intention toward all, stood forth and addressed them. Son of Atreus, now, my lord, the Achaeans are trying to make you into a thing of reproach in the sight of all mortal men, and not fulfilling the promise they undertook once as they set forth to come here from horse-pasturing Argos, to go home only after you had sacked strong-walled Ilion. For as if they were young children or widowed women, they cry out and complain to each other about going homeward. In truth, it is a hard thing to be grieved with desire for going. Any man who stays away 1 month from his own wife with his intricate ship is impatient, one whom the storm winds of winter and the sea rising keep back. And for us now, this is the 9th of the circling years that we wait here. Therefore, I cannot find fault with the Achaeans for their impatience beside the curved ships. Yet always it is disgraceful to wait long and at the end go home empty-handed. No, but be patient, friends, and stay yet a little longer until we know whether Calchas's prophecy is true or is not true. For I remember this thing well in my heart, and you all are witnesses, whom the spirits of death have not carried away from us yesterday and before, at Aulis, when the ships of the Achaeans were gathered, bringing disaster to the Trojans and Priam, and we beside a spring and upon the sacred altars were accomplishing complete hecatombs to the immortals under a fair plane tree whence ran the shining of water. There appeared a great sign. A snake, his back blood-mottled, a thing of horror cast into the light by the very Olympian, wound its way from under the altar and made toward the plane tree. Thereupon were innocent children, the young of the sparrow, cowering underneath the leaves at the uttermost branch tip, 8 of them, and the mother was the 9th who bore these children. The snake ate them all after their pitiful screaming, and the mother, crying aloud for her young ones, fluttered about him, and as she shrilled, he caught her by the wing and coiled around her. After he had eaten the sparrow herself with her children, the god who had shown the snake forth made him a monument, striking him stone, the son of devious devising Cronos. And we, standing about, marveled at the thing that had been done. So as the terror and the gods' monsters came into the hecatomb, Calchas straightway spoke before us, interpreting the gods' will. Why are you turned voiceless, you flowing-haired Achaeans? Zeus of the councils has shown us this great portent, a thing late to be accomplished, whose glory shall perish never. As this snake has eaten the sparrow herself with her children, 8 of them, and the mother was the 9th who bore them, so for years as many as this shall we fight in this place, and in the 10th year we shall take the city of the wide ways. So he spoke to us then. Now all this is being accomplished. Come then, you strong, grieved Achaeans, let every man stay here until we have taken the great citadel of Priam. So he spoke, and the Argives shouted aloud, and about them the ships echoed terribly to the roaring Achaeans as they cried out applause to the word of godlike Odysseus. Now among them spoke the Gerenian horseman, Nestor. Oh, for shame! You are like children when you hold assembly, infant children to whom the works of war mean nothing. Where then shall our covenants go and the oaths we have taken? Let counsels and the meditations of men be given to the flames then, with the unmixed wine poured in the right hands we trusted. We do our fighting with words only, and discover no remedy that we have stayed here a long time. Son of Atreus, do you still as before hold fast to your counsel unshaken, and be the leader of the Argives through the strong encounters? Let them go perish, these one or two who think apart from the rest of the Achaeans, since there will be no use in them until they get back again to Argos without ever learning whether Zeus of the Aegis promises false or truly. For I say to you, the son of all-powerful Cronos promised, on that day when we went in our fast-running vessels, we of Argos, carrying blood and death to the Trojans. He flashed lightning on our right, showing signs of favor. Therefore let no man be urgent to take the way homeward until after he has lain in bed with the wife of a Trojan, to avenge Helen's longing to escape and her lamentations. But if any man is terribly desirous to go home, let him only lay his hands on his well-benched black ship, that before all others he may win death and destruction. Come, my lord, yourself be careful and listen to another. This shall not be a word to be cast away that I tell you. Set your men in order by tribes, by clans, Agamemnon. And let clan go in support of clan, let tribe support tribe. If you do it this way, and the Achaeans obey you, you will see which of your leaders is bad, and which of your people, and which also is brave, since they will fight in divisions, and might learn also whether by magic you fail to take this city, or by men's cowardice and ignorance of warfare. Then in answer again spoke powerful Agamemnon. Once again, old sir, you surpass the sons of the Achaeans in debate. O Father Zeus, Athene, Apollo, would that among the Achaeans I had 10 such counselors. Then perhaps the city of Lord Priam would be bent underneath our hands, captured and sacked. But instead, Zeus of the Aegis, son of Cronos, has given me bitterness, who drives me into unprofitable abuse and quarrels. For I and Achilles fought together for a girl's sake in words, violent encounter, and I was the first to be angry. If ever we can take one single counsel, then no longer shall the Trojans' evil be put aside, not even for a small time. Now go back, take your dinner, and let us gather our war-craft. Let a man put a good edge to his spear and his shield in order. Let each put good fodder before his swift-footed horses, and each man look well over his chariot, careful of his fighting, that all day long we may be in the division of hateful Ares. There will not even for a small time be any respite unless darkness come down to separate the strength of the fighters. There will be a man's sweat on the shield strap, binding the breast to the shield, hiding the man's shape, and the hand on the spear grow weary. There will be sweat on a man's horse straining at the smoothed chariot. But any man whom I find trying, apart from the battle, to hang back by the curved ships, for him no longer will there be any means to escape the dogs and the vultures. So he spoke, and the Argives shouted aloud, as surf crashing against a sheerness, driven by the south wind descending, some cliff out-jutting, left never alone by the waves from all the winds that blow as they rise one place and another. They stood up scattering and made for the ships. They kindled the fire's smoke along the shelters and took their dinner, each man making a sacrifice to some one of the immortal gods, in prayer to escape death and the grind of Ares. But Agamemnon, the lord of men, dedicated a fat ox, 5 years old, to Zeus, all-powerful son of Cronos, and summoned the nobles and the great men of all the Achaeans. Nestor before all others, and next the lord Idomeneus, next the two Aeantes and Tydeus' son Diomedes, and sixth Odysseus, a man like Zeus himself, for counsel. Of his own accord came Menelaus of the great war cry, who knew well in his own mind the cares of his brother. They stood in a circle about the ox, and took up the scattering barley. And among them powerful Agamemnon spoke in prayer. Zeus, exalted and mightiest, sky-dwelling in the dark mist, let not the sun go down and disappear into darkness, until I have hurled headlong the castle of Priam blazing, and lit the castle gates with the flame's destruction, not till I have broken at the chest the tunic of Hector, torn with the bronze blade, and let many companions about him go down headlong into the dust, teeth gripping the ground soil. He spoke, but none of this would the son of Cronos accomplish, who accepted the victims but piled up the unwished-for hardship. Now, when all had made prayer and flung down the scattering barley, first they drew back the victim's head, cut his throat and skinned him, cut away the meat from the thighs, and wrapped them in fat, making a double fold, and laid shreds of flesh above them. Placing these on sticks cleft and peeled, they burned them, and spitted the vitals, and held them over the flame of Hephaestos. But when they had burned the thigh pieces and tasted the vitals, they cut all the remainder into pieces and spitted them, and roasted all carefully, and took off the pieces. Then after they had finished the work and got the feast ready, they feasted, nor was any man's hunger denied a fair portion. But when they had put away their desire for eating and drinking, the Gerenian horseman Nestor began speaking among them. Son of Atreus, most lordly and king of men Agamemnon, let us talk no more of these things, nor for a long time set aside the action which the god puts into our hands now. Come then, let the heralds of the bronze-armored Achaeans make proclamation to the people, and assemble them by the vessels, and let us together, as we go down the wide host of the Achaeans, to stir more quickly the fierce war god. He spoke, nor did the lord of men Agamemnon neglect him, but straightway commanded the clear-voiced heralds to summon by proclamation to battle the flowing-haired Achaeans. And the heralds made their cry, and the men were assembled swiftly. And they, the god-supported kings about Agamemnon, ran marshalling the men, and among them grey-eyed Athene, holding the dear-treasured ageless, immortal, from whose edges flowed 100 all-golden tassels, each one carefully woven, and each worth 100 oxen. With this fluttering she swept through the host of the Achaeans, urging them to go forward. She kindled the strength in each man's heart to take the battle without respite and keep on fighting. And now battle became sweeter to them than to go back in their hollow ships to the beloved land of their fathers. As obliterating fire lights up a vast forest along the crests of a mountain, and the flare shows far off, so as they marched from the magnificent bronze, the gleam went dazzling all about through the upper air to the heaven. These, as the multitudinous nations of birds winged, of geese and of cranes and of swans long-throated in the Asian meadow beside the Caestrian waters, this way and that way make their flights in the pride of their wings, then settle in clashing swarms, and the whole meadow echoes with them. So of these the multitudinous tribes from the ships and shelters poured to the plain of Scamandros, and the earth beneath their feet and under the feet of their horses thundered horribly. They took position in the blossoming meadow of Scamandros, thousands of them, as leaves and flowers appear in their season, like the multitudinous nations of swarming insects who drive hither and thither about the stalls of the sheepfold in the season of spring, when the milk splashes in the milk pails. In such numbers the flowing-haired Achaeans stood up through the plain against the Trojans, hearts burning to break them. These, as men who are goat-herds among the wide goat flocks, easily separate them in order as they take to the pasture. Thus the leaders separated them this way and that way toward the encounter, and among them powerful Agamemnon, with eyes and head like Zeus, who delights in thunder, like Ares for girth, and with the chest of Poseidon, like some ox of the herd, preeminent among the others, a bull who stands conspicuous in the huddling cattle. Such was the son of Atreus as Zeus made him that day, conspicuous among men and foremost among the fighters. Tell me now, you muses who have your homes on Olympos, for you who are goddesses are there, and you know all things, and we have heard only the rumor of it and know nothing. Who then of these were the chief men and the lords of the Danaans? I could not tell over the multitude of them, nor name them, not if I had 10 tongues and 10 mouths, not if I had a voice never to be broken and a heart of bronze within me, not unless the muses of Olympia, daughters of Zeus of the Aegis, remembered all those who came beneath Ilion. I will tell the lords of the ships and the ships' numbers. Laetos and Peneleos were leaders of the Boeotians, with Archesilios and Prothoenor and Clonios, they who lived in Hyrieon and rocky Aulis, in the hill bends of Eteonos and Skoionos and Skolos, Thespia and Graea, and in spacious Mycalessos, they who dwelt about Harma and Alesion and Erythrae, they who held Eleon and Hyle and Peteon, with Ocalea and Medeon, the strong founded citadel, Copai and Eutraces and Thisbe of the dovecotes, they who held Coronea and the meadows of Haliartos, they who held Plataea, and they who dwelt about Glyssa, they who held the lower Thebes, the strong founded citadel, and Onchestos, the sacred, the shining grove of Poseidon, they who held Arne of the great vineyards, and Medea, with Nisa the sacrosanct and uttermost Anthedon. Of these there were 50 ships in all, and on board each of these 120 sons of the Boeotians. But they who lived in Aspledon and Orchomenos of the Minyae, Ascalaphos led these, and Ialmenos, children of Ares, whom Astyoche bore to him in the house of Octor, Azos' son, a modest maiden. She went into the chamber with strong Ares, who was laid in bed with her secretly. With these two there were marshaled 30 hollow vessels. Skadios and Epistrophos led the men of Phocis, children of Iphitos, who was son of great-hearted Naubolos. These held Kyparissos and rocky Pytho and Chrysa the sacrosanct, together with Daulis and Panopeus. They who lived about Hyampolis and Anamorea, they who dwelt about Kephisos, the river immortal, they who held Nelaia beside the well springs of Kephisos. Following along with these were 40 black ships, and the leaders marshalling the ranks of the Phocians set them in arms on the left wing of the host beside the Boeotians. Swift Aias, son of Oileus, led the men of Locris, the lesser Aias, not great in size like the son of Telamon, but far slighter. He was a small man, armored in linen, yet with the throwing spear surpassed all Achaeans and Hellenes. These were the dwellers in Kynos and Opoeos and Kaliaros, and in Bessa and Scarphe and lovely Augeiai, in Thronion and Tarphe and beside the waters of Boagrios. Following along with him were 40 black ships of the Locrians, who dwelt across the sea from sacred Euboea. Though they who held Euboea, the Abantes, whose wind was fury, Chalkis and Eretria, great vineyards of Histiaia, and Sebor and Carinthos, and the steep stronghold of Dion. They who held Charistos, and they who dwelt about Styra. Of these the leader was Elephenor, scion of Ares, son of Chalcodon, and lord of the great-hearted Abantes. And the running Abantes followed with him, their hair grown long at the back, spearmen furious with the outreached ash spear to rip the corselets girt about the chests of their enemies. Following along with him were 40 black ships. But the men who held Athens, the strong founded citadel, the deme of great-hearted Erechtheus, whom once Athene Zeus's daughter tended after the grain-giving fields had borne him, and established him to be in Athens her own rich temple. There, as the circling years go by, the sons of the Athenians make propitiation with rams and bulls sacrificed. Of these men, the leader was Peteos's son, Menestheus. Never on earth had there been a man born like him for the arrangement and order of horses and shielded fighters. Nestor alone could challenge him, since he was far older. Following along with him were 50 black ships. Out of Salamis, Ajax brought 12 ships and placed them next to where the Athenian battalions were drawn up. They who held Argos and Tyrines of the huge walls, Hermione and Asine lying down the deep gulf, Troezene and Aeone and Epidauros of the vineyards, they who held Aegina and Mases, sons of the Achaeans. Of these, the leader was Diomedes of the great war cry, with Sthenelus, own son to the high-renowned Capaneus, and with them as a third went Euryalus, a man godlike, son of Megistios the king and scion of Talaos. But the leader of all was Diomedes of the great war cry. Following along with these were 80 black ships. But the men who held Mycenae, the strong-founded citadel, Corinth, the luxurious and strong-founded Cleonae, they who dwelt in Orneae and lovely Araethyrae, and Sicyon, where of old Adrestos had held the kingship, they who held Hyperasia and steep Gonoasia, they who held Pellene, and they who dwelt about Aegion, all about the seashore and about the wide headland of Helice. Of their 100 ships, the leader was powerful Agamemnon, Atreus' son, with whom followed far the best and bravest people, and among them he himself stood armored in shining bronze, glorying, conspicuous among the great fighters, since he was greatest among them all, and led the most people. They who held the swarming hollow of Lacedaemon, Pharis and Sparta, and Messe of the dovecotes, they who dwelt in Briseae and lovely Augeae, they who held Amyclae and the seaward city of Halos, they who held Laos, and they who dwelt about Oitylos. Of these, his brother Menelaus of the great war cry was leader, with 60 ships marshaled apart from the others. He himself went among them in the confidence of his valor, driving them battleward, since above all his heart was eager to avenge Helen's longing to escape and her lamentations. They who dwelt about Pylos and lovely Arene and Thyron, the Alphaeos crossing, and strong-built Ipi, they who lived in Kyparisius and Amphigenia, Pteleos and Halos and Dorion, where the Muses, encountering Thamyris the Thracian, stopped him from singing as he came from Oechalia and Eurytos, for he boasted that he would prevail if the very Muses, daughters of Zeus who holds the Aegis, were singing against him. And these, in their anger, struck him maimed, and the voice of wonder they took away and made him a singer without memory. Of these, the leader was the Geranian horseman Nestor, in whose command were marshaled 90 hollow vessels. They who held Arcadia under the sheer peak Kyllene, beside the tomb of Pythos, where men fight at close quarters, they who dwelt in Orchomenos of the flocks, and Phaneos, about Rhipe and Stratia and windy Anispe, they who held Tegea and Mantinea the lovely, they who held Stymphalos and dwelt about Parrhasia, their leader was Anchios' son, powerful Agapenor. 60 was the number of their ships, and in each ship went many men of Arcadia, well skilled in battle. Agamemnon, the lord of men himself, had given these for the crossing of the wine-blue sea, their strong-benched vessels, Atreus' son, since the work of the sea was nothing to these men. They who lived in Boprocion and brilliant Elis, all as much as Hyrmine and Myrsinos, the uttermost, and the Olanian rock and Elasion close between them. Of these there were 4 chieftains, and with each man 10 swift vessels followed, with many Achaean men on board them. Of 2 tens, Thalpios and Amphimachos were leaders, of Actor's seed, sons, one of Cteatos, one of Eurytos. 10 more were led by Amaringeos' son, strong Diores, and of the fourth 10 godlike, Polyxianos was leader, son of Lord Augusthenes of the race of Augeias. They who came from Dulichion and the sacred Echini Islands, where men live across the water from Elis, Mages was the leader of these, a man like Ares, Phyleus' son, whom the rider dear to Zeus had begotten. Phyleus, who angered with his father, had settled Dulichion. Following along with him were 40 black ships. But Odysseus led the high-hearted men of Cephallenia, those who held Ithaca and leaf-trembling Neraton, those who dwelt about Crocylea and rigid Agylips, and those who held Zycanthos, and those who dwelt about Samos, and those who held the mainland and the places next to the crossing. All these men were led by Odysseus, like Zeus in council. Following with him were 12 ships, with bows red painted. Thoas, son of Andrymon, was leader of the Aetolians, those who dwelt in Pleuron and Olenos and Pylene, Calydon of the rocks, and Chalkis beside the seashore, since no longer were the sons of high-hearted Oeneus living, nor Oeneus himself, and fair-haired Meleagros had perished. So all the lordship of the Aetolians was given to Thoas. Following along with him were 40 black ships. Idomeneus, the spear-famed, was leader of the Cretans, those who held Knossos and Gortyna of the great walls, Lyctos and Miletos, and silver-shining Lycastos, and Phaestos and Rhytion, all towns well established, and others who dwelt beside them in Crete of the 100 cities. But of all these, Idomeneus, the spear-famed, was leader, with Meriones, a match for the murderous lord of battles. Following along with these were 80 black ships. Heracles' son Tlepolemus, the huge and mighty, led from Rhodes 9 ships, with the proud men of Rhodes aboard them. Those who dwelt about Rhodes and were ordered in triple division, Ialisos and Lindos and silver-shining Camairos. Of all these, Tlepolemus, the spear-famed, was leader, he whom Astyochea bore to the strength of Heracles. Heracles brought her from Ephyra in the river Selleis, after he sacked many cities of strong, God-supported fighters. Now when Tlepolemus was grown in the strong-built mansion, he struck to death his own father's beloved uncle, Lycaemnios, scion of Ares, a man already aging. At once he put ships together and assembled a host of people and went fugitive over the sea, since the others threatened, the rest of the sons and the grandsons of the strength of Heracles. And he came to Rhodes a wanderer, a man of misfortune, and they settled there in triple division by tribes, beloved of Zeus himself, who was lord over all gods and all men, Cronos' son, who showered the wonder of wealth upon them. Nireus from Cyme led 3 balanced vessels, Nireus, son of Aglaea, and the king Charopos. Nireus, the most beautiful man who came beneath Ilion, beyond the rest of the Danaans, next after perfect Achilleus. But he was a man of poor strength, and few people with him. They who held Nisairos and Crapathos and Kassos, and Kos, Eurypylus' city, and the islands called Calydnae. Of these again, Phaedippos and Antiphos were the leaders, sons both of Thessalos, who was born to the lord Heracles.
In their command were marshaled 30 hollow vessels. Now all those who dwelt about Pelasgian Argos, and those who lived by Alos and Alope and at Trachis, those who held Phthia and Hellas, the land of fair women, who were called Myrmidons and Hellenes and Achaeans, of all these and their 50 ships the Lord was Archelaus. But these took no thought now for the grim clamor of battle, since there was no one who could guide them into close order, since he, swift-footed, brilliant Archelaus, lay where the ships were, angered over the girl of the lovely hair, Briseis, whom after much hard work he had taken away from Lyarnessos, after he had sacked Lyarnessos and the walls of Thebe and struck down Epistrophos and Mynes, the furious spearmen, children of Euanos, king and son of Selapios. For her sake he lay grieving now, but was soon to rise up. They who held Phylake and Pyrosos of the flowers, the precinct of Demeter, and Iton, mother of sheep-flocks, Antron by the seashore, and Pteleos deep in the meadows. Of these in turn fighting Protesilaos was leader while he lived. But now the black earth had closed him under, whose wife, cheeks torn for grief, was left behind in Phylake, and a marriage half completed. A Dardanian man had killed him as he leapt from his ship, far the first of all the Achaeans. Yet these, longing as they did for their leader, did not go leaderless, but Podarches, scion of Ares, set them in order, child of Iphicles, who in turn was son to Phylacos, rich in flocks, full brother of high-hearted Protesilaos, younger born, but the elder man was braver also. Protesilaos, a man of battle, yet still the people lacked not a leader, though they longed for him and his valor. Following along with Podarches were 40 black ships. They who lived by Pherae, beside the lake Boibais, by Boibe and Glaphyrae, and the strong-founded Iolcos, of their 11 ships the dear son of Admetos was leader, Eumelos, born to Admetos by the beauty among women, Alcestis, loveliest of all the daughters of Peleus. They who lived about Thaumakia and Methone, they who held Meliboea and rugged Olizon, of their 7 ships, the leader was Philoctetes, skilled in the bow's work, and aboard each vessel were 50 oarsmen, each well skilled in the strength of the bow and battle. He was skilled in the bow's work. Yet he himself lay apart in the island, suffering strong pains. In Lemnos, the sacrosanct, where the sons of the Achaeans had left him in agony from the sore bite of the wicked water snake. There he lay apart in his pain, yet soon the Argives beside their ships were to remember Lord Philoctetes. Yet these, longing as they did for their leader, did not go leaderless, but Medon, the bastard son of Oileus, set them in order, whom Rene bore to Oileus, the sacker of cities. They who held Trike and the terraced place of Ithome and Oichalia, the city of Oichalia and Eurytos. Of these, in turn, the leaders were 2 sons of Asclepios, good healers both themselves, Podalerios and Machaon. In their command were marshaled 30 hollow vessels. They who held Ormenios and the spring Hyperia, they who held Asterion and the pale peaks of Titanos, Eurypylos led these, the shining son of Euaemon. Following along with him were 40 black ships. They who held Argissa and dwelt about Gyrtone, Orthe and Elone in the white city Oloosan. Of these the leader was Polypoetes, stubborn in battle, son of Peirithous, whose father was Zeus immortal, he whom glorious Hippodameia bore to Perithous on that day when he wreaked vengeance on the hairy beast-men, and drove them from Pelion, and hurled them against the Aethices. Not by himself, for Leonteus was with him, scion of Ares, Leonteus, son of high-hearted Coronos, the son of Caeneus. Following in the guidance of these were 40 black ships. Goneus from Kyphos led 22 vessels, and the Aeneanes and the Perhaibians, stubborn in battle, followed him, they who made their homes by wintry Dodona, and they who by lovely Titaressos held the tilled acres, Titaressos, who into Penaios casts his bright current. Yet he is not mixed with the silver whirls of Penaios, but like oil is floated along the surface above him. Since he is broken from the water of Styx, the fearful oath river, Protoos, son of Tentedron, was leader of the Magnesians, those who dwelt about Penaios and leaf-trembling Pelion. Of these, Protoos was the swift-footed, was leader. Following along with him were 40 black ships. These then were the leaders and the princes among the Danaians. Tell me then, Muse, who of them all was the best and bravest of the men and the men's horses who went with the sons of Atreus? Best by far among the horses were the mares of Eumelos, Phares' son, that he drove swift-moving like birds, alike in texture of coat, in age, both backs drawn level like a plumb line. These Apollo of the silver bow had bred in Perea, mares alike who went with the terror of the god in battle. Among the men, far the best was Telamonian Aias, while Achilleus stayed angry, since he was far best of all of them, and the horses also, who carried the blameless son of Peleus. But Achilleus lay apart among his curved sea-wandering vessels, raging at Agamemnon, the shepherd of the people, Atreus' son. And his men, beside the break of the sea beach, amused themselves with discs, and with light spears for throwing, and bows. And the horses, standing each beside his chariot, champed their clover and the parsley that grows in wet places, resting, while the chariots of their lords stood covered in the shelters, and the men, forlorn of their warlike leader, wandered here and there in the camp and did no fighting. But the rest went forward as if all the earth with flame were eaten and the ground echoed under them, as if Zeus, who delights in thunder, were angry as when he batters the earth about Typhoeus, in the land of the Arimoi, where they say Typhoeus lies prostrate. Thus beneath their feet the ground re-echoed loudly to men marching, who made their way through the plain in great speed.
Now to the Trojans came as messenger wind-footed Iris in her speed, with the dark message from Zeus of the Aegis. These were holding assembly in front of the doors of Priam, gathered together in one place, the elders and the young men. Standing close at hand, swift-running Iris spoke to them, and likened her voice to that of the son of Priam, Polites, who, confident in the speed of his feet, kept watch for the Trojans aloft the ancient burial mound of ancient Aeaetes, waiting for the time when the Achaeans should move from their vessels. In this man's likeness, Iris the swift-running spoke to them. Old sir, dear to you forever are words beyond number, as once, when there was peace, but stintless war has arisen. In my time I have gone into many battles among men, yet never have I seen a host like this, not one so numerous. These look terribly like leaves, or like the sands of the seashore as they advance across the plain to fight by the city. Hector, on you beyond all I urge this, to do as I tell you. All about the great city of Priam are many companions, but multitudinous is the speech of the scattered nations. Let each man who is their leader give orders to these men, and let each set his citizens in order and lead them." She spoke, nor did Hector fail to mark the word of the goddess. Instantly he broke up the assembly. They ran to their weapons. All the gates were opened, and the people swept through them on foot and with horses, and a clamor of shouting rose up. Near the city, but apart from it, there is a steep hill in the plain by itself, so you pass one side or the other. This men call the Hill of the Thicket, but the immortal gods have named it the burial mound of dancing Myrina. There the Trojans and their companions were marshaled in order. Tall Hector of the shining helm was leader of the Trojans, Priam's son, and with him far the best and the bravest fighting men were armed and eager to fight with the spear's edge. The strong son of Anchises was leader of the Dardanians. Aeneas, whom divine Aphrodite bore to Anchises in the folds of Ida, a goddess lying in love with a mortal. Not Aeneas alone, but with him were two sons of Antenor, Archelochos and Acamas, both skilled in all fighting. They who lived in Zelea below the foot of Mount Ida, men of wealth, who drank the dark water of Aesopus, Trojans. Of these the leader was the shining son of Lycaon, Pandaros, with the bow that was the actual gift of Apollo. They who held Adrasteia in the countryside of Apaisos, they who held Pitaea and the sheer hill of Tereia, these were led by Adrastos and Amphios, armored in linen, sons both of Merops of Percote, who beyond all men knew the art of prophecy, and tried to prevent his two sons from going into the battle where men die. Yet these would not listen, for the spirits of dark death were driving them onward. They who dwelt in the places about Percote and Procyon, who held Sestos and Abydos and brilliant Arisbe, their leader was Asios, Hyrtacos' son, a prince of the people. Asios, son of Hyrtacos, whom huge and shining horses carried from Arisbe and the river Selleis. Hippothous led the tribes of spear-fighting Pelasgians, they who dwelt where the soil is rich about Larissa. Hippothous and Pyleos, scion of Ares, led these, sons alike of Pelasgian Lathos, son of Toitamos. Acamas led the men of Thrace with the fighter Peiros. All the Thracians held within the hard stream of the Hellespont. Euphamos was leader of the Caiconian spearmen, son of Troizanos, Chaos' son, the king whom the gods loved. Pyrocmes, in turn, led the Paeonians with their curved bows, from Amydon far away in the broad stream of Oxyos. Oxyos, whose stream on all earth is the loveliest water. Pylaemones, the wild heart, was leader of the Paphlagones, from the land of Anatoi, where the wild mules are engendered. Those who held Kaitoros and those who dwelt about Sesamos, those whose renowned homes were about Parthenios River, and Cromna, and Aigialos, and High Erythinoi, Odios, and Epistrophos, led the Halizones from Alaibe, far away, where silver was first begotten. Alaibe, far away, where silver was first begotten. Chromis, with Enomos the augur, was lord of the Mysians. Yet his reading of birds could not keep off dark destruction, but he went down under the hands of swift-running Aeacides in the river, as he slew other Trojans beside him. Phorcys and godlike Ascanios were lords of the Phrygians from Ascania far away, eager to fight in the onfall. Mesthiles and Antiphos
were leaders of the Maeonians, son of Ptolemenes, who was born of the lake Gygaean. These led the Maeonian men whose home was beneath Mount Tmolus. The Carians of the outland speech were led by Nastes. They who held Miletos and the leaf-deep mountains of Thyron, the waters of Myandros, and the headlong peaks of Mycale. Of these, the two leaders were Amphimachos and Nastes. Nastes and Amphimachos, the shining sons of Nomion. Nastes came like a girl to the fighting in golden raiment, poor fool, nor did this avail to keep dismal death back, but he went down under the hands of swift-running Aeacides in the river, and fiery Achilleus stripped the gold from him. Sarpedon with unfaulted Glaucus was lord of the Lycians from Lycia far away, and the whirling waters of Xanthos.